So, Mortal fucking Kombat. Fucking hell. Okay, so this is gonna be a very short review of the movie, and I'm gonna try not give out any spoilers or anything more specific about it. And I'm gonna try and keep it, as I said, rather short. In summary, the movie actually quite sucks, and it's kind of baffling that a lot of people seem to like it and enjoy it when it's just fucking cheap. It's cheap, it's nonsensical at times. There are some changes that, sure, I like Mortal Kombat. I'm not a diehard fan or anything like this, but they just they were just weird. I don't think they were needed. They were necessary, and they ultimately didn't try to do anything different. They just tried to explain things that I don't really think that needed to be explained, especially as the movie seemed to be clearly just directed towards people who are fans of the Mortal Kombat universe. And they already knew those things. They already didn't care for any kind of a backstory about, let's say, for example, the magic powers that a lot of the characters have, and it just didn't make all that much sense. Something different. Um, Actually, no. I'm not gonna talk about all of the things that I disliked first. I am actually going to give credit where credit is due. There were a few good things about the movie. The first one is, like a lot of other people have already said, the actor that played Kano just fucking nailed it. Nailed it. Like, perhaps not visually, but close enough visually. And in terms of the character itself, this is what Kano should have been like. This is how pretty much everyone imagined him. And yeah, like, fucking nailed it. Something else that I did kind of like is that they did put some fan service in terms of adding a few characters that were kind of like from the early 3D era of Mortal Kombat, and we haven't seen them in game for quite a while. So seeing them in a movie was not all that bad. I kind of liked it, although they didn't really have kind of a big role. They just showed up to die effectively most of the time. So yeah, still, I'm gonna keep it as a positive in this case, not as a negative. The CGI in some places was quite okay, and again, the elephant in the room, the best thing about the movie probably was the beginning, the very beginning of the movie, the fight between Scorpion, back then Hanzo Hasashi, and Sub Zero. That was done perfectly. And I think those two characters needed to be in the movie much, much more, perhaps even centered around them. I know it hasn't, and I know it has been done quite few, quite a few times already. But still, I think that would have been much more interesting than some of the other characters that were shown here. The fight scenes, they were hit or miss. To be perfectly honest, some of them, again, the one between Scorpion and Sub Zero, that was amazing, I think. But some of the other ones were, I mean, they kind of sucked. The editing was very, very choppy. It's, no, just no. They didn't work, at least for me. Now, those few minor things that I did like aside, um, let's head to the negative, which is, I think, much, much, much more relevant. I'm a person that doesn't really enjoy that mindless action. I knew, obviously, it's a Mortal Kombat movie. I know that it would be just fight scenes, etc. This is what I expected. This is perhaps the movie which was the exception that I knew. It would focus on fighting, and I was there for that. I knew the story would suck. I knew that they wouldn't even try. But in this case, they really, really, really didn't try to do any justice to any kind of a story. Like, the plot was, like, I'm trying to find the best words to describe it. It was unnecessary. Uh, Pressing, like creating the story before the tournament starts, just didn't work for me. It didn't make any sense in terms of why they should do it, and it ultimately ended up being really rather boring. They also did try to cram quite a few things in just one movie, and a lot of things were skimmed on, a lot of things were just expositioned to death, and yeah, that kind of sucked. The characters, okay, again, Kano was good, Liu Kang was fairly fine, and obviously Scorpion and Sub Zero, both of them were great. I would have personally liked to see a somewhat younger Scorpion, but the guy that played it was still amazing, I think. Most of the other characters were kind of flat, to be perfectly honest, and really, especially the main character. I know it's been beaten to death already, but the main character, again, not the actor. I don't know the actor personally in terms of what he's done before, but the character itself was really kind of shit. And having him beat, okay, I said no spoilers, so I'm not going to say who he beat, but still, it was really rather boring, and ultimately, he didn't really serve any purpose to advance the story. He wasn't a part of the games. I don't think that he would be a part of the games, because honestly, he would be really boring even in a game as well. So they could have easily just gone ahead with any other existing character, focused it around them, and like for example, they could have easily even used the same story but with a different character. It didn't need to be somebody new who was that bland in this case. So, yeah, that is a major, major down point. The pacing of the movie is also weird. The first half of the movie is really exposition-y. It's for huge amounts of the movie, nothing is really happening, and then in the second half, it's just short skirmish. I would say I wouldn't call it a fight. Then some Deus Ex Machina where people just and they go fight somewhere, and that's it really didn't work. Again, I think the movie, if they wanted to commit to giving so much information, they could have made it much much longer, or at least just skipped some of the information and focused on something much smaller for those 2 hours that the movie is on. So, yeah, ultimately, I think that the movie is really a letdown. Even though I didn't really go into it with really any high expectations, I wanted some fun. I knew that some of the fighting would be good, and I didn't really expect a good story, but I'm still disappointed by what they showed us. I don't really have any type of a meter or anything, but if I have to grade it with numbers, I would say 4 out of 10. Oh, something else that I forgot to mention, because I'm honestly doing this in one take. I don't want to edit anything out. Some of the dialogues were, again, some people like it because it's really fan servicey in terms of them quoting some of the characters' lines from the games and so forth. I found them to be really rather cringy and not they're not so bad that it's good. They're just bad, at least in my opinion. And again, this review, the point of it is not to try and rage bait or anything. It's just my opinion. I just didn't like it myself, and I just wanted more of the movie. I wanted them to try more. Sure, it's pandemic. They didn't really have much time, but still, if they didn't, then they should have pushed it back, I think, and just made it better. This was rushed, low efforty, and yeah, not great performance overall. So yeah, that's it. See if I ever do a any other movie review ever. See ya.